Let's get into our next discussion now. Reactions are trailing the violence that characterized Saturday's by-election in Rivers State.
Absolutely. Already, the Independent National Electoral Commission has announced the suspension of the exercise due to attacks on voters and even officials. Correspondent Uche Okoro now gives details.
Voting commenced peacefully in many of the 142 polling units in Port Harcourt Constituency 3, so much to the delight of INEC officials and voters.
We want to use this election as a foretaste of what will happen in 2019. And of course, the success of what we are doing today is dependent not only on INEC, as it also depends on the voters and the key political actors here.
I just casted my vote, and if every other election will be like this, I tell you, people's mandate will speak. But just that, after now, we don't know the next level that they will take it to.
Enforcement of the dusk to dawn curfew was ongoing, and it appeared as though the state was going to witness a peaceful election after a very long time. But halfway into the polls, hoodlums began attacking several polling units, alleging that the exercise was being rigged in favor of one political party. Many NYSC members serving as ad hoc staff for the election were forced to abandon their duty posts. For security reasons, others changed out of their NYSC uniforms into plain clothes.
Everything went well, apart from seeing the PDP again activate their, the action from their old script, which is activating gunmen to shoot in order to intimidate and harass voters. They also made attempts to carry electoral materials away.
Despite the violence, pressure was high on INEC to proceed with collation and declaration of final results.
Let the supervisor bring the result for collation so that we will declare the winner. It's not a do or die affair. My brother, it's not a do or die affair. Constituency 3 has gotten a free and fair election today. Whether we like it or we leave it, there is no perfect being, the world's not a perfect place, but we have gotten a free and fair election today. Let the collation officer bring the result and give to the return officer to declare the result who wins.
For now, there is no word from the electoral umpire as to when the suspended by-election would be concluded. Uche Okoro, TVC News, Port Harcourt.
All right, we have joining us from Port Harcourt, Ledum Miti. He is the convener of the Initiative for Credible Elections. Good morning to you, Ledum.
Good morning.
All right, first off, your reaction to what happened during the by-election in Rivers State and then, of course, the subsequent cancellation.
Well, I think that it was quite unfortunate. It was something that we have foreseen, and that's why we preached against violence in the elections. I think that it is not a reflection of what the ordinary Rivers people want or how they expect elections to be conducted. And I think it is a disgrace to us as people, especially the political class that engaged in these sort of unwholesome practices.
All right, Nigerians are quite concerned about the level of violence in River State each time. This is not the first or second or third or fourth time such kind of violence are recorded in elections or during elections in River State. What is really responsible for the spate of violence during election in River State? Because it seems to be peculiar to Rivers now.
Well, I think Rivers is actually one topmost destination for this type of violent elections, no doubt about that. But I think it is the political class, the leadership of the political class in this state. Before elections, the type of words that they use epitomize violence. And I think they also are the people who make their followers to also engage in this violence. But in spite of all this particular one, I see also some area that I think is encouraging, and that is the fact that INEC did not feel that they should, in spite of what was going on, to continue to do the ruptured elections and declare some result that will not reflect what has happened. They were also clear in their mind and in their statement that about the role of security agencies in all this. This is not the first time we are seeing that, and I think that is what INEC itself should also work on, because elections are not supposed to be a war. Those who have witnessed elections, even in countries like Ghana, do not see the intrusion of security agencies involved in elections. And I wonder, why is it that in these areas? I always think that there are always announcements before each election that the political class, none of them should be accompanied by any security agencies. I think in the way the Rivers elections are going, perhaps it is time to ban the use of their security agencies, all of them who accompany them. Any of them who go around with security agencies, maybe they should have their own candidates disqualified, because it's become so much.
All right.
I believe that we also, as a people, need to come out and resist what is going on, because this state is not just for politicians.
Well, it's not only the police that have always been fingered in allegedly disrupting electoral processes in Rivers State over the years. Of course, there have been accusations of political thugs that will just bombard any polling booth and just cut away ballot papers and even the ballot boxes as well. And that aside, and with the way this is going, no new date has been set. And if eventually a new date is set, what is the assurance you think would be there as an indigene of that state that it would be peaceful?
Well, I think that you are quite right. It's not just, and I use my word advisedly, I didn't say police, because there are other security agencies that were involved in the Saturdays and other elections. But the use of thugs have been quite frequent. I mean, it's something that is done almost every time. But what makes that goes to the next level is that when some of the thugs are now being backed by the official security, then it becomes quite frightening. But that is not to say that any bit of what is going on is good enough. But I think that where we are now, the traditional rulers, the religious leaders, civil society groups, and ordinary Rivers people that I insist do not condone these things, we all need to rise up and join our campaign against violent elections in the state. The implications are profound, because apart from that, it creates the excuse for businesses that want to leave this state and therefore create unemployment. And the unemployment creates also a large field of those who are available to be recruited as thugs during elections. I think we need to join hands, and at the same time, INEC must come out, clearly work out with the security agencies what role, if any, and at what level are security agencies going to be deployed. And I think that what happened last Saturday, it was very clear that there are several people. I don't know why we cannot even identify some of the people that have been used, so that at least some people have to be prosecuted for the purposes of sending a message to others that this is not what is tolerated in a country like ours.
Okay. Well, recent elections conducted in some states, there were new dimensions of vote buying and the role of money. And it really brings new kind of concern among the electorate and among watchers of elections. From the election, what happened, even though it was cancelled in Rivers State, what role did you think, from your assessment, money played in the area of vote buying or otherwise?
Well, on a lighter note, I used to liken this issue to someone who is selling clutches, and so he wants to break the legs of people so that there will be market for his product. In other words, because people are poor, then people now make sure that when I want elections, I can dangle maybe a 1,000, 5,000, and they look for it. What it shows there is that people have been so much impoverished that, and they do not see anything out of governance, to the extent that they just see that once I can get something now to vote, because I will not see anything after I've voted. That is the sort of the things that is creating that sort of environment. But again, this is not a matter for INEC. And I think this is where society should come in. That's what we thought that the law enforcement should come in. Because the INEC people are at the polling units. Most of these vote buying are done outside that area. And so, but we see it, the society sees it, law enforcement sees it, and no one is arrested and prosecuted. I think this is quite dangerous. And maybe we all need to confront that sort of a situation. Okay. But as I said, I think it is also a telltale sign of the type of the economic situation that we have in the country.
All right. Earlier, you talked about the need for the country to reassess the use of security operatives, especially the police, during elections. But then when you hear stories of how electoral officials, even core members, are harassed, beaten, and forced to do what they do not want to do on election days by political thugs or other supporters of some political parties, wouldn't you say that some form of security is still needed at some polling units, at least to serve as a deterrent to those that have ulterior motives?
Well, any person who is familiar with what happens here, it's not the police, it's not the security agencies, it's not the police who are at those units for the purposes of protecting the election officials that are involved in all this. What happens is that in the course of the elections, you'll see a troop of either soldiers or maybe the SARS or so who drive into the area and then come there with some thugs and seize the electoral materials and, in fact, shoot. Those are the areas we are talking about. There is no doubt that we need some protection. And that's why they are assigned to each of the election units. That exists. So we must differentiate between the segment of security agencies that are protecting the integrity of the elections, and there has never been so much problem with such people. But the ones we are saying, they come completely in vehicles, as a troop, as if they are going for war, and they just swoop into the area. Sometimes backed by politicians, known politicians, and that is the situation that is causing the problem. So I agree, we need security for the youth corpers, we need security for the electoral officials and the integrity of the elections. But that has never been the problem. Those security agencies have not been those who perpetrate the type of fraud that we witness in this state.
All right, as we look at what happened in Rivers State and what happens in Rivers State usually from previous elections, how assessing how 2019 is going to play out on all of that, how do we see this as a reflection of what could likely happen in the 2019 elections?
Absolutely, just like INEC said before the elections, this was supposed to be a test run for what will happen next year. And I think this is something that sends a message to all of us. Right now, the paper has been leaked, so to say, So I think we now have to now work out how we are going to confront this. We now know what the political class aim for us next year. And so no one will say I was not aware. Both the INEC, the security agencies, all of us must do that. In the course of these elections, in the course of our campaigns as the Initiative for Credible Elections, we have met with the army, we have met with the police, we have met with the DSS, amongst others. And one thing that we had from each of these segments of security agencies is that if we see any group that is doing that those people are not their men. So, or that they are not doing it with official backing. So what one will want to see is that between now and the days ahead, those people, those security agencies that were so involved, what will the security agency as an organization do to those people? And because if there is some punishment about those people, then it will send the right message across. I think that we have time now on our hands that we need to work. If INEC had any illusions about what will happen next year, then they now see exactly what we feared when we embarked on this campaign for credible elections.
All right, but we've seen so many incidents in the country to know that sometimes, not every time now, there might be an effort in not even wanting to learn from previous mistakes to better, perform in subsequent ones. If what happened in River State in 2015 was anything to go by, many would have thought that what happened just a few days ago shouldn't have even happened in the first place. So are you really assured as a Nigerian that any tangible lesson will be learnt in time for 2019 general election to be free, fair and credible, and it won't be fraught by any form of underworking activities?
Well, I'm a very incurable optimist. I believe that somehow we can still salvage something out of the elections. And one of the things that I think we should do is not to play politics about things that are going on in the country that is supposed to help us, especially help our electoral process. I'm talking about what appears to be the quagmire about some of the amendments that were supposed to be made to the Electoral Act. Now, I'm not sure we know where we are about what laws will guide the elections next year, and we are grinding to about 6 months before the elections. So I think that should be back in the front burner. All the drama about what is going on in the political space should just take the back seat and let us look at what we can do to give ourselves a very definite law, especially those laws relating to the use of the card reader and maybe electronic transmission of results, because perhaps that might check some of these incidences. But we should not be a country that do not learn from its mistakes. They say it's only bad people who do the same thing and expect different results. I believe that we have had the signs and we should now go and work. And I believe that if we so work and say this must stop, then it should stop. I think that the president itself should be able to say, look, I want to bequeath to Nigerians an election that will now stand, the test of credibility. And so that is the one reason why the laws should be passed as quickly as possible.
All right. With this continuous violence or seeming violence in River State, what impact is it having on voter apathy when it comes to people, the turnout of people and the willingness to come out to vote?
Well, it's quite obvious. If you were one of the voters who went to Port Harcourt Constituency 3 on Saturday, and you witnessed the sort of violence that engulfed the whole area, I'm not sure that in so short a time you will want to go to any venue for elections. These are ordinary people who may have felt that they wanted their votes to count. Throughout the rest of the year, there have been campaigns, even by INEC, even in the churches, everywhere. Please go and get your PVCs. Now, people have got their PVCs, but when they go there, what do they see? Violence. I think clearly this is a very sad commentary. It will affect the voters' enthusiasm to make a choice. But I would think that therein gives us another responsibility, that we need to assure the voters that clearly we are going to do something about it. Because that is the only way that you can see voters come out. And if they don't come out, that is also not good for our democracy.
And what role should political parties be playing at this time?
Well, the political parties, to say the least, is that they themselves have not living up to their expectations. I think one of their own role has been, or should be, political education of their followers. And their political education should not include, educating them on how to be violent. So they are also, primary culprits in all this. But I think their own role should be, from now on, to tell their people that, just like the last president said, that, election is not worth the blood of any person. That is what political parties should do. Now, when we start these elections, when we started our campaigns for credible elections in the state, we had written to the both political parties that we want to engage, the main political parties. And we have not had the response to that, our request. So I think this is what we think that the political parties should do. Unfortunately, we have not seen them performing their role creditably.
All right. We'll keep a tab to know how things will turn out, especially now that the elections has been suspended indefinitely. We'll wait to see how things will turn out. Ledum Committee, convener of the Initiative for Credible Elections, thank you for talking to us on TVC Breakfast. All right. Coming up on the program, it's Eid al-Kabir, and Muslim faithful in Nigeria are joining their counterparts the world over to celebrate.
The significance of the Salah celebration should not be overshadowed by merriment, but should be a time for sober reflection on the dictates of Islam and the life of Prophet Muhammad. Stay with us for that.